how Gary Wilson, Your Brain on Porn, helped me break free from porn forever. Listen up. Quitting porn wasn't just a battle. It was the hardest fight of my life. I went about 1 year and a half without porn, but I relapsed hard for 5 months. Does it sound familiar to you? But here's the truth. Porn is not just a habit. It's truly an addiction that is rewiring your brain. And trust me, I get it. But Gary Wilson's book, Your Brain on Porn, saved me. And it's going to save you too. If you ever felt like porn is taking over your life, you've tried to quit a million times but keep failing. This video is exactly for you. And I'm about to drop some game-changing truths that will break the chains for good. So let me ask you this. Do you feel like porn is just everywhere? On your phone, on your computer, in your mind, and every time you try to quit and feeling more trapped than before. I was the same way. I thought it was just a phase until I realized it was ruining my relationships, my self-worth, and of course, my brain. I found freedom when I came across Gary Wilson's Your Brain on Porn, and it made me realize something huge. Porn is not just a bad habit, it's truly an addiction that rewires your brain. And that is truly the key to understand why it's so hard to break free. Here's a crazy story from Wilson's book that might sound just like you. This guy was in his late 20s and he could only get an erection through calm, real life intimacy. That's totally erectile dysfunction. Even though he could easily climax to porn, he felt lost. He thought, what's wrong with me? He tried everything to fix it. Went to doctors, but nothing worked. It wasn't his body. It was his brain. Gary Wilson nails it in the book. Gary Wilson nails it. Porn hijacks your reward system. Every time you watch it, your brain gets flooded with dopamine, the feel-good chemical. And over time, it doesn't just change your preferences. It rewires your brain to need that extreme stimulation. So real intimacy, when you are with your woman, becomes a huge letdown. Literally, your body feels let down from the circumstances of having real life intimate sex. That's the truth. However, when this guy quit porn for months, his erections came back. It wasn't just his sex life that changed. It was his confidence, his happiness, and his emotional connection to his partner. Obviously, his brain was totally reset and he was back in control. So here's the takeaway when it comes to this story. May actually seem harmless for you, for me, for everybody, but it is nonetheless rewiring your brain to be addicted to novelty. The key word here is novelty. However, you can reverse this by quitting, and this is the first step. Here's another jaw-dropping story. This one is about escalation. One guy in the book started with regular porn, but over time, he found himself diving into extreme fetishes he never thought he'd be into in a million years. He just couldn't stop. Every time he watched, he needed more and more and more extreme stimulation to get excited. His brain became hooked, and nothing in real life could compare to the thrill of that artificial stimulation. Gary Wilson explained how this happened. The more you watch porn, the more your brain craves newness and novelty. It's like chasing a high, except that with porn, the high is shortly and temporary, but the addiction is very real. This man realized he was in a spiral, but guess what? He quit porn, and over time, His desire for real, authentic intimacy returned. No more extreme fetishes, no more fantasy. His brain completely healed. The message here is that you can actually desexualize your brain and reset it to appreciate normal, healthy sexual attraction. It is possible to reclaim control, but it does take effort, patience, and time. I want to introduce you to NoFap, and I think a lot of you watching the video know what NoFap is about. NoFap is a movement that focuses on resetting your brain by abstaining from porn and masturbation. In Wilson's book, he talked about how rebooting is the most effective way to undo the damage porn has done to your brain. One guy took a 60-day break from porn. He was overwhelmed with urges, got frustrated, but after a while, something incredible happened. His social anxiety dropped, his confidence skyrocketed, and his attraction to real women returned. This was not just about his sex life. It was about his entire outlook on life. Wilson explains that when you stop consuming porn, you are giving your brain a chance to reset. Your reward system starts to work like it's supposed to, and you stop relying on extreme stimuli to get turned on. You are more present in real life, and you start appreciating the real connections again. As I said, I've been through this myself. The first couple of weeks were the hardest, but then I started seeing real changes. My mind was clearer. I felt obviously more confident in my relationships with myself and others, and women improved. Another powerful story of a man who struggled with severe depression and anxiety. He used porn as a coping mechanism. Every time he felt low, he retreated to porn. It was his escape. But over time, it just made his mental health worse and worse and worse. And after reading Wilson's book, he realized that porn wasn't just a sex issue. It was a mental health issue. The constant dopamine hits you get from porn were making his depression worse. The moment he quit, his mental health started to improve. He felt more present, less anxious, and his depression lifted his whole life. And his depression lifted away. Whole life changed. Wilson says it best. Porn does not just affect your sex life. It affects your mind, your emotions, your social life. But the beauty is quitting porn will help you heal mentally, emotionally, and of course. So why does quitting porn work? Gary Wilson breaks it down in Your Brain or Porn. Porn addiction rewires your brain's reward system. Every time you watch, your brain gets flooded with dopamine. And over time, it requires more and more stimulation to feel good. Here's the scary part of it. Studies shows that 40% of young men report experiencing some form of erectile dysfunction, aka ED. Because of their porn consumption, 40% of young men report experiencing some form of erectile dysfunction because of their porn consumption. But you can heal. Another study shows that frequent porn use is linked to decreased sexual satisfaction and intimacy. But when you stop, your brain has a chance to reset, and those things come back. You have the power to rewire your brain. Your brain is plastic, meaning it can heal and change. By quitting porn, you give your chance. By quitting porn, you give your brain a chance to reset itself and to enjoy real life connection. So to conclude, now it's your turn. If you are ready to break free from the grip of porn, you can do it. You don't have to be stuck in this cycle forever. Now, it won't be easy, but with the right tool, like the ones you will learn from Gary Wilson's book, Your Brain on Porn, and the support from people who understand the struggle. Let me repeat this. And the support from people who understand the struggle, you can refill your brain and live a porn-free life like I do. To take the first step toward recovering, which means you have to commit. You deserve to experience true intimacy, self-confidence, and emotional freedom. So if you are ready to quit porn for good, I'm here to help. Let's take back control together. Leave a comment below if you're ready to make this change. Don't wait another day. Take action now and your future self will thank you.